The devil, the Antichrist, Lucifer, Satan. We know him by many names, but he comes with many faces. And on the 6th of the 6th of the 6th, the number of the beast, we aim to identify him.
Whatever it was came overhead, making a really loud noise.
Supposedly the creature was half man, half goat.
Tonight, our search for Satan will take us to the location where he is said to have been encountered.
And just a weapon in his hands.
And he shot both people sitting in a car right by this tree.
I've never seen people with that many stab wounds in my life.
Would we recognize him if we saw him?
Coarse brown fur, and he had, cloven hoof.
Coal-like burning eyes.
A very low grunting.
Using eyewitness accounts and first-hand testimony, tonight, for the first time on television, we will create the face of the devil. Throughout history, the devil has been illustrated in different ways. These images have come from the Bible, paganism, art, films, and music. Our search to find the face of Satan begins in the dark shadows of folklore. There are countless legends and tales showing creatures in the form of a devil that lives in the woodlands.
Devil folklore primarily is stories of the devil to teach someone a lesson or to do something or to not do something. Parents would tell their kids about, the devil will get you if you go into those woods. But stories came from somewhere. There was some reason why the mothers didn't want their children playing in the woods.
But some people believe that these particular devils are fact, not fiction, and that behind every legend there is something real. One example of this is the Jersey Devil.
There's something in southern New Jersey that is ungodly and very scary.
I believe he's still around, and I believe from time to time he'll make his presence known.
Its cries echo through the woods. It leaves its footprints in the mud. The Jersey Devil has roamed the pine barrens of southern Jersey for almost 300 years. It is said to resemble several different animals, but it walks upright and is believed to be the child of a human mother called Mother Leeds.
According to tradition, Mother Leeds had 12 children, and she was so tired of having children when she found out she was expecting the 13th, the unlucky 13th, she cried out in frustration, "I hope it's a devil." And one night as a storm raged in across the pines, she gave birth. At first, the child was a normal-looking, healthy baby. And then in no time, it rose up larger than a full-grown man. Bat wings sprouted from its shoulder. Its face elongated into that of a horse. A large tail came out of its back. And according to one version, it ate its brothers, sisters, Mr. and Mrs. Leeds, several midwives, and soared up the chimney, leaving a trail of crashing bricks.
The creature grew up in the woods, apparently. There were times when people would not go out in the woods, wouldn't go in the woods at all, when there had been sightings of the creature.
I've talked to people who have been in the pine woods and experienced a scream that is just blood-curdling. When you hear it, you know immediately that is not human.
There have been hundreds of reported sightings and hearings of the Jersey Devil.
People go out hiking or they go exploring or camping and they'll hear a loud shriek or a howl or something. And then they look up and see this bizarre creature up in the tops of the trees.
The people who have had occasion to run into the devil describe the coal-like burning eyes. There is a stench or an aroma that comes with the devil. Their descriptions are somewhere between 3.5 and 6 feet high, and the body of a kangaroo, and bat wings, cloven hooves, dog face, usually bleeding, but that could be from feeding on something.
The last known reported sighting of this winged Jersey Devil was on October the 16th, 2004, by John Freeman. His eyewitness account was recorded on tape.
I was going down this road. I see this rather large mass crossing the road. It was like burnt orange in color. I've never seen anything like it before. One thing that I noticed that was really weird about it, it looked like a bat walking on its elbows, how they, like they crawl using their elbows.
Yeah.
The thing was huge. I mean, it took about 3/4 of the width of the road. It had like a very angular face, like long pointed, almost like horse features, but very angular, very sharp corners, and pitch black eyes. And it just continued off, crawling into the woods.
Does the Jersey Devil actually exist, terrorizing local people? If so, is this the face of the devil?
Whether it is the devil himself could be argued, but he is certainly a form close to evil.
Whilst the people of New Jersey believe that Satan lives amongst them, a few hundred miles away in Maryland, the locals feel he takes on the form of the Goatman.
It looks like the devil, acts like the devil, walks like the devil. It might be the devil.
As with the Jersey Devil, is this creature fact or fiction? Countless witnesses believe they have seen and heard a strange, unrecognizable beast that lives in the woods.
There are very specific reports on file where people, they're sure they saw the horns. They're very certain the lower half of his body was covered in coarse brown fur, and he had, cloven hoofs of a goat.
Goatman Hollow are a group of investigators who research the sightings and movements of the Goatman. Will their research reveal what Satan looks like?
This area here is a sighting of a child's dog that was found. This is back in the 1970s, and what happened was they found a head, but they found no body. It became a really big news story. It was printed in several newspapers, so pretty much everyone assumed or actually believes that the Goatman was responsible for the beheading of the dog.
We've heard a lot of strange sounds out here. Some of them sound like a scream, and other sounds sound like a very low grunting.
The most widely accepted origin of the Goatman was that he was part of a series of experiments that were being done by the agricultural department that were creating like mutant creatures. And one of the scientists had a crisis of conscience and just released the animals.
Some sort of unknown creature, monster, animal, covered in hair, may have horns, resemble a goat.
This area is actually very close to a farm just beyond these woods back here. Supposedly a farmer was out and he was plowing his fields, and he saw something over in the distance on the edge of the woods. Supposedly the creature was very tall, described as almost 8 feet tall, hunched over, had the same kind of description as previously with half man, half goat creature, and the horns, of course, which made him look more like a devil.
In many versions of the Goatman legend, he hides out in woods, and if you go parking in the car, he will come up and attack your vehicle and drag your date out and kill you, basically.
These are the actions of the devil, of someone evil, and it's easy to make the correlation between the devil and Goatman.
So, are the stories of the Jersey Devil and the Goatman reality or fantasy? Does the devil have the Goatman's hooves and horns? Or is Lucifer a winged creature from the woods? Are one of these two legends really the true face of Satan? After the break, our search for the face of the devil continues.
When they dug that well out, they opened the gates of hell.
We'll meet the man who swears that Satan has red eyes.
But I would see an image with reddish-colored eyes.
And that the devil wanted him dead.
Satan told him that he would die if he tried to get the spirits or get the demons out of him.
When Lucifer fell from heaven, he headed straight for hell. In traditional images, the devil torments the damned with fire and brimstone in the realm of the dead. But some people believe that you don't have to die to go to hell in order to meet Satan. The portal to eternal darkness can be found here on earth. So if we find the highway to hell, would we also find out what the devil looks like. Kentucky, bluegrass country. A land characterized by the rounded hills of the north, the rocky slopes of the Penroyal, and the western coal fields. Wilder sits in northern Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati. Wilder is aptly named. It connotes unruliness and feral behavior, is a little rough around the edges. And there's nothing that unusual about this place, apart from one thing. For many years, the town has been subject to visits from curiosity seekers, tourists, investigators, and media reporters. They come here in search of a place called Bobby Mackey's Music World, a nightclub and bar that is said to be home to the gateway to hell.
Rumors about Satanism, about this being a place of unease, are founded on truth, in that murders occurred here, and people who were associated with the murders met untimely ends or had bad luck thrown upon them. And that's documented.
Bobby Mackey's rests in an isolated position in the bank of the Licking River. It has a long and bloody history. Constructed in 1850, it was once a popular site for Satanists to practice their occultist ceremonies. Devil worshippers would gather at the site to perform rituals to Satan and make bloody sacrifices to their god, drinking each other's blood and slaughtering animals.
It's on the edge of the road, and it has this feel to it as if you are entering a different place. And it does have a history, and that history is not fraught with good things all throughout.
In the early 1800s, this site was a slaughterhouse, and there was a well that they dug into and put culvert pipe in, and they ran it all the way to the Licking River. Because of all the blood that was spilled into the well, Satan worshipers came here, and they would go down into the well and worship the devil.
Carl Lawson was the club's caretaker for several years. No one knows more about its gruesome history than him.
This here is part of the actual well, and there's a tunnel up underneath of them railroad tracks you can actually walk through that will lead you right into this building. I honestly believe that satanic worshipers were drawn here because of the availability of the Licking River, the location, the seclusion. They had a very private, they could do almost anything they wanted out of here. I believe that it is to a point why this club it's like a vortex.
With so much occultist activity in the area, the well underneath the club took on a particular significance.
When they dug that well out, they opened the gates of hell.
Hell's Gate is in the basement. It's in the well downstairs in the basement. First time I went downstairs, I just could feel the difference down there. I mean, it made my skin crawl. I just got real shivery. I had to leave. I couldn't go back, and I still to this day won't go downstairs.
Carl lived in the attic whilst looking after the club. He soon found that he wasn't alone.
When I took residence up here, I was the only person in this building, and I lived right upstairs. And what was here, I hadn't realized it, but it was actually enjoying senses for me. And being alone here, when I would enjoy a cigarette, the spirits were enjoying it too, because they was in me.
Soon Wilder was alive with talk of the local man possessed by demons.
When I first learned of this story, I came and interviewed Carl. We spent the night talking here, and I did what they call mock the spirits. I started making fun of them and trying to get them to appear. A garbage can went flying across the behind the bar and smashed all to pieces. And the more I talked to Carl, the more I felt that he was possessed.
But this wasn't an anonymous malevolent energy. Both Carl and Doug believed that they were entertaining Satan.
Satan would enter, and he would make me stay up for days on end. I would become violent. Anytime somebody tried to show me affection or concern, I would lash out at them. I had no control over myself. I was just perpetrating evil. I was possessed. I'd think, do, or say Satan's work. And that's what he loves, is to cause disharmony, hatred. That's what he loves, and he was working through me doing that. Actually, sitting here right now, I can feel like something's knocking at a door. I really can sense I'm being watched.
At this time, Carl believed he saw the face of Satan.
I would hear voices. I'd glance back in this one big mirror in the rear of the building, and I don't know how many times I would see an image. The lights is out. I mean, electric's turned off, there's no light. But I would see the glimpse of an image with reddish-colored eyes.
During my interviews with Carl told me that down in the basement that Satan appeared in a mirror, and actually a bony, elongated hand came out of the mirror trying to grab him. He said that Satan told him that he would die if he tried to get the spirits or get the demons out of here.
Satan eventually drove Carl to the brink of destruction.
I had some horrid memories of things I would do. The turmoil that was built up in me was just totally strong. It was going to destroy me sooner or later. Something had to be done, or I was done for. I was going to die here.
Whilst Carl's behavior became more and more extreme, Doug believed that the only option left was to have the demons exorcised.
I went and talked to a Pentecostal minister named Glenn Cole, Reverend Glenn Cole, and asked him to come here and meet Carl. He was here 10 minutes, talked with Carl for like 10 minutes, and he turned to me and he says he's infested with demons.
It has been several years since the Satan was driven out, and only now does Carl feel strong enough to revisit the scene of his exorcism.
The minister actually talked to Carl for maybe 15 minutes before he actually started performing the exorcism.
He anointed me with holy water, and he prayed upon me.
The minister asked who is inside Carl Lawson's body. Carl got down on his hands and knees, crawled like a dog, and out of Carl's mouth, real gravelly, said, "Ima Natas." I asked the minister what that was, and he said that was Carl speaking in English backwards, and Ma Natas backwards is "I am Satan." When the minister grabbed the Bible and he grabbed Carl by the hands, Carl went flying backwards into the floor, out of the chair. I witnessed that. And he threatened the minister and said that there's 1,000 demons here with me, and I'll kill you and any minister or any man of God that comes in this place and tries to run us off. His explicit words were, "We've been here for thousands of years, and you or no man of God is going to run us out of here."
That exorcism, it is a complete blackout. Whatever was in me was not me.
The exorcism complete, Carl left his job and moved out of the attic rooms. But has Satan moved on as well? Has Hell's Gate been closed for good?
I firmly believe that if there is a site of evil, that it's right here at Bobby Mackey's nightclub. But I'm telling you, something evil dwells here.
What's here, it's real. I don't want to be the catalyst any longer. I stayed here long enough. I'd be opening up a door, and I'm just not going to let that happen.
Was Carl Lawson possessed by demonic spirits? Did he see Satan at Hell's Gate? And do the red flashing eyes really belong to the devil? After the break, meet the murderers who claim that the devil drove them to commit their crimes.
I'm just a weapon in his hands.
And he shot both people sitting in a car right by this tree.
What did Satan look like as he instructed them to kill?
Apparently, he's supposedly hearing voices from the dog that he claimed was talking to him and sending devil-like messages to him.
Throughout time, Satan has been used as an excuse for some of the most chilling events in world history.
Many notorious individuals have cited satanic influence as being a factor what led to their crimes. I might bring up Adolf Hitler. I might point out that every time there's a murder or a suicide in a hotel room, there's a copy of the Gideon Bible, but no one ever lays claim that it was a Christian crime.
But some people believe that the devil has driven them to commit horrifying crimes. One of the most infamous of these in modern times is Nico, the self-styled vampire of Paris.
I have an attraction to dead bodies, which is not sexual. It's purely aesthetic. I like the way they look, and I like the texture of the skin.
Nico's trail of grave robbing, acts of cannibalism and satanic rituals led him to the ultimate sacrifice. In 1994, he killed a man. He was imprisoned for 8 years. Now released, he feels no remorse and has no regrets about killing for Satan. Nico's obsession with evil began in his formative years. He became fascinated with Satan and explored his own darker side amongst the tombs and Gothic cemeteries of Paris.
I have opened coffins there where I was there. And I have unearthed remains.
When I was in the cemetery, I felt closer to Satan and to my inner self, my inner world, because this was my territory.
Conduct rituals down there, and I would sometimes steal human bones.
Eventually, Nico found a job that enabled him to indulge his urges.
When I started to work in the morgue and I started to attend autopsies, I was in contact with raw human meat, so sometimes I would swallow meat from the person. Then after I would sometimes bring it home and cook it. There is a belief in certain satanic cults that cannibalism is a communion with the devil, and this is the way I spiritualized the things that I did.
With cannibalism, you might think it's completely deranged activity, but it does have a clear history, particularly amongst very primitive times. It's a power-seeking thing, and to eat the flesh of another person, you want the power of that person, you're absorbing the power of that person, and therefore becoming a more powerful being yourself.
I do believe in God, and I do believe in the devil. It's as simple as that. When I die, it is my belief that I will go straight to hell, and I will sit on the left side of Satan with other people of my kind. And I do think it is better to reign in hell than to be a slave in paradise. People should be aware that the devil is inside them. The thing is to either accept it or deny it.
But it was in 1994 that Nico made his ultimate sacrifice to the devil. He switched from cannibalism to murder.
There was always in my mind the thought of taking lives and feeding from the energy that was released when you kill a human being. When I couldn't control myself anymore, then this is what happened. I killed someone. I had bought the gunbow and I had planned it a long time before. Why this day, I don't know. Why that special day, why this special person, there is absolutely no answer to that. I shot a man in the eye, then I shot him several times again in the back of the skull and in the heart. It lasted 30 minutes maybe. That was the ultimate experience for me. Taking a life and feeding from the life. It was like cannibalizing a soul and giving it to my Lord. There is so many different representations. The one I feel more close to is the image of Pazuzu, the Assyrian demon, which I have tattooed on my wrist here. So Pazuzu is my demon.
Nico Klaus believes Pazuzu to be the original demon. Pazuzu has the body of a man, but the head of a lion or dog, talons instead of feet, 2 pairs of wings, and the tail of a scorpion. Could this be the true face of Satan? 8 years in prison has done nothing to change Nico's views on right and wrong.
Most psychologists I have met agree on one point, it's that I do not suffer from a psychosis, which means that I am legally sane. It was my choice to do the things that I did. Some might say that I am the devil, but I'm not. I'm just a weapon in his hands.
In the terms of heinous acts of criminals, in a contemporary sense, the use of the devil just simply follows on from the idea that you make excuses, you need a scapegoat. This idea that it is not me, it's some evil force that made me do it.
If Pazuzu is the devil for Nico Klaus, for serial killer David Berkovich, the face of the devil looked very different. In New York in the 1970s, he slayed 6 people and wounded many others during a spree of killing and violence. Berkovich also claimed that he wasn't responsible for his actions. Like Nico Klaus, Berkovich insisted that the devil made him do it.
He said he was directed by the devil. The devil told him when to kill and who to kill.
Berkovich was known and feared as the Son of Sam.
Berkowitz called himself the Son of Sam because his neighbor had a dog. His neighbor's name was Sam Carr. The dog was, in Berkowitz's mind, at least what he told me when I interviewed him, was the messenger of the devil, which told Berkowitz when to go out and kill young women.
At the time, Berkovich was living in an apartment block in Pine Street, New York.
David Berkowitz lived in the back far corner of the building, and if you look down, you would see a street that Sam Carr's house was on. Apparently, he's supposedly hearing voices from the dog that he claimed was talking to him and sending devil-like messages to him.
And the howling came to be a signal to him that it was time for him to leave his apartment and go out into the streets and prowl.
It seemed to be that Berkowitz would travel around the 5 boroughs in New York City and go into so-called lovers' lanes and find couples that were hanging around by themselves in a quiet area, would walk up to them, pull out a .44 and basically shoot.
Detective Joseph Coffey clearly remembers the early hours of the 26th of June, 1977. He was the first on the scene after the shooting of Sal Lupo and Sal's girlfriend, Judy Placido.
There was a very hot summer night that night. This was the Elephants discotheque, which was frequented by young people. And that particular night, 2 people came out and sat in the car for a liaison, snorting cocaine and making out. And along came Berkowitz, who was unidentified at the time, the Son of Sam. And he shot both people sitting in the car right by this tree. Chaos ensued. Nobody had life-threatening injuries. The male member of this couple ran back into the disco for help. By this time, we had responded. I got a radio transmission saying, shots fired, 211th Street, Northern Boulevard.
The killings were all done virtually the identical way. Young couples, or in one case 2 girls, were sought out and shot. He emptied the gun into them and then left.
I think at the time that these events took place, he felt that he was an instrumentality of a greater power.
My recollection is that he knew he was looking, that he was sent out.
The police formed Operation Omega. This task force would become the largest single operation mounted by the New York Police Department. 3 days later, Berkovich struck again.
That shooting, he killed 2 people, a boy and a girl, again, having a liaison in the car.
But this time, he left a vital clue.
The letter was addressed to Captain Joseph Borelli, who was working the case with me. And in that letter, he indicated that he was possessed by the devil.
I am the monster, Beelzebub.
He lived in the streets of New York. He lived in the sewers, and he identified himself as the son of Sam.
I am the son of Sam.
He said he was directed by the devil to kill women.
Go out and kill, and then his father said.
He called them women, W-E-M-O-N, as opposed to women, taken off on the word demon.
David felt, in my opinion, that his body was taken over and his entire spirit was no longer his, and that he was not committing these crimes, but that some alter, evil, sinister spirit had invaded his body and, in essence, committed these crimes.
A parking ticket on Berkovich's Ford Galaxy eventually connected him with the crimes. His vehicle had been parked in the same vicinity as the final Son of Sam shooting.
Before he was arrested, he eventually killed 6 people, 5 girls and 1 fellow. They were all young, they were all innocent, and they certainly didn't deserve to be killed.
He was arrested 10 days later, coming out of his apartment block.
David Berkowitz came out of the building, seemingly oblivious to the world, and walked to his car, which had been right over about where that silver car is, right over there. He got into his car, they surrounded him.
Berkowitz turned to Detective Filatico and said, "You got me." Filatico says to him, "Who do I have?" He says, "You have the Son of Sam."
Berkovich pleaded guilty, now serving a 364-year sentence.
Now he's in prison where he is supposedly advising other inmates on how to be people of God. Now he goes from the devil to God.
Now he is considered to be not Son of Sam, but Son of Hope.
It may well be that Berkovich is a changed man, but he still maintains that his acts were that of the devil and not insanity.
Was he touched by the devil? It may very well be that he was, whatever the devil means.
If this is true, did Berkovich see the devil in the dog? And if so, can Satan take on any living form? If the devil has a face, who or what does it belong to?
He's a little scruffy guy, 5 feet 2 inches tall.
And he's got the swastika, ingrained in his forehead.
After the break, we'll meet the man widely regarded as Satan in human form.
If I were to show you the embodiment of all that is bad in this world, take a look at this man.
One of the most common images of the devil is that of the fallen angel, Satan, in human form. Has the devil walked amongst us? Does he walk amongst us still? On the opposite coast to the location of the Son of Sam's reign of terror lies Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles. In 1969, it was the scene of one of the most infamous and brutal murders in U.S. history, and one that many believe was the work of the devil. On the night of the 8th of August, Charles Manson directed some members of his cult, known as the Family, to 10050 Cielo Drive. There in the dead of night, they slaughtered 5 people, including Sharon Tate, the 8 months pregnant wife of film director Roman Polanski. As they began their ferocious onslaught, one of the gang, Charles Tex Watson, said, "I am the devil, and I come to do the devil's work." His barbaric act was directed by Manson. So if Satan has a human face, does it look like this? On that fateful summer night, Tate was entertaining friends at her house in Benedict Canyon. The happy party was to end brutally at the hands of Charles Watson, Susan Atkins, and other members of Manson's self-styled family. Police officer Robert Burbridge was one of the first on the scene the next morning.
August 8th, 1969, I was a Los Angeles police officer working West Los Angeles Division, and I received a radio call at about 9 o'clock in the morning of a man down, which generally was a drunk or a dead body. The address of the call was 10051 Cielo Drive. When we got there, the maid was hysterical. The first person I saw was Stephen Perrin. He was in a white Rambler. He was dead laying on the front seat. We observed 2 more bodies laying on the front lawn. The look on Abigail Folger's face was, I'll never forget that the rest of my life. We went into the house, went from room to room, ended up in the living room where we observed Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring, the hairdresser, laying on the living room floor with a tremendous amount of blood pool around each body, a rope around both their necks as if they were both hung by the same rope. I've never seen people with that many stab wounds in my life.
Prosecuting attorney Vincent Bugliosi remembers killer Susan Atkins' confession well.
Susan Atkins told me she was cooperating with me, that Sharon said, please let me live so I can have my baby. And Susan told me that she told Sharon, look, bitch, I don't have any mercy on you. You're going to die. And Susan Atkins said, you know, you really have to love people a lot to do what I did to Sharon Tate.
We then went out the front door, and the front door had the word pig written on it in blood. Probably the total time I spent on the police department, I never saw anything so gruesome in my life.
The investigation was hampered by a lack of obvious motive for the slayings. Rumors abounded that the murderers were part of a satanic cult. For Officer Burbridge, a return visit to the scene evokes horrific memories.
It just overwhelms me to think that how, with all this beauty here and tranquility, that how could a murder of such magnitude ever take place in this area? The only thing I could even begin to think would cause it would be something demonic.
At the time these murders happened, it sent shivers down the spine of Tinseltown. It was horrific. You couldn't have created a more brutal murder. It really scared people. It frightened Hollywood.
The man responsible for this climate of fear was Charles Manson, an ex-convict who many of his followers described as having magical and hypnotic powers.
The first time I saw him, he was walking from the Inyo County Jail to the courthouse. He was a little scruffy guy, 5 feet 2 inches tall, kind of hunchback, long hair, beard, didn't look very imposing. But I had already read enough about him that he had this incredible power to get other people to commit murder for him.
There was this sort of satanic quality to the murders, and Charlie Manson was seen as like this religious cult leader who told them that they were committing these acts of murder for a greater good, and also he told them that he wanted to ignite a race war in America, and that he wanted to kill all these rich white people so that other people would assume it was done by blacks.
He surrounded himself with young kids from average American homes. They thought Manson was wonderful. They thought he was the second coming of Christ.
Possessed of a strong force of will and a commanding personal presence, Manson often referred to himself as both Christ and the devil. Or was he the Antichrist? His chosen disciples were impressionable young people searching for life's meaning.
I think the Manson murders still resonate today because not only was it a very gruesome and very high-profile murder, but Charlie Manson, he's an evil guy, but we're fascinated by him. And he's got the swastika, you know, ingrained in his forehead, and he's still ranting about things you can't understand, but it captures our fascination because you feel like when you're looking at this man, you're looking right at evil. If I were to show you the embodiment of all that is bad in this world, take a look at this man.
If Satan was behind the crimes at Cielo Drive, does his presence linger there still? The area of Benedict Canyon has been redeveloped in the years since the massacre, but for some of its residents, an overwhelming feeling of menace and evil pervades. Since 2002, David Oman has lived in a house just 200 feet from Sharon Tate's home. His experiences in the last 3 years have convinced him that the horrific events of that night in 1969 still resonate to this day.
As recently as a week ago, I was down on the 3rd level with a friend watching a film, and we both heard the sound of a gentleman speaking to someone. I assumed it was my telephone answering machine going off. And I went and picked up the phone, assuming I'd be picking up the phone and hearing somebody talking on it, and the phone was dead.
Is there a satanic energy present in this house? Could these incidents suggest that a malevolent power has made Cielo Drive its home? Parapsychologist Dr. Barry Taff has been investigating the house at Cielo Drive for some time.
There is, under Benedict Canyon, a very old fault line which has not moved in the recent past. The readings we've gotten here with instruments are so high as to be potentially biologically hazardous. In the midst of this, people are seeing apparitions. Objects are appearing and disappearing. Furniture is moving around. Voices are being heard. It makes one wonder whether these energies could produce an aberrant form of behavior, induce violence, belligerence, malevolence, and make people do things they might not do otherwise.
Was it Satan's presence that made the Manson family commit the murders at 10050 Cielo Drive? Does he remain there still? David Oman has brought in a team of demon hunters. Would they be able to identify Satan's presence?
5.
A traditional way to contact the other side is with a Ouija board. This method is feared by many as it can arouse malevolent forces, but the demon hunters are determined to find out who or what is behind events in Benedict Canyon.
Were there satanic influences in Charles Manson and his family? Yes. Was it a strong influence from the satanic side? Very, very definitely yes.
Been investigating this case for almost 11 months now. And whatever is in this house is intelligent. It's focused. It seems to take a very direct and strong interest in impeding our ability to document it. There's suggestions that wherever we're dealing with is potentially malevolent. It took a slice out of my left index finger. It tore a ring off a woman's finger to my right during a seance. And the question is, what do these events represent?
Our search for the devil has taken us around the world. In New Jersey, eyewitnesses claim to have seen a flying devil who stalks the woods at night. In nearby Maryland, a creature who appears as half man, half goat has terrorized the community. For one resident of Wilder in Kentucky, Satan's red eyes are watching from the basement of Bobby Mackey's nightclub. Across the continent, the vampire of Paris believes the devil is the face of Pazuzu, whilst for killer Son of Sam, the devil lives in a black Labrador. In California, it is the face of Manson that people consider to be the most like Satan. So, if all of these elements are brought together, what does the devil look like? Is this the image of Satan?
It's been said that the devil's greatest trick upon mankind is creating the notion that he does not exist. If that's so, then we've all got to tip our hat to the devil as the greatest magician of all time, and we should applaud that magic trick.
Or is the devil's greatest trick to look any way that he pleases as he quietly slips unnoticed amongst us?